are now joined by Rob Lopes. I do believe. So forgive me. It's Neil from
It is Neil,
Virtual1.
yeah.
I'm reading too far down my list.
No problem at all.
Forgive me. So help us understand a bit about yourself and Virtual1.
So I run products and marketing at Virtual1. We're a UK wholesale connectivity provider. Yes, our second year here. We came last year, we talked about how we were expanding our network, how we were putting intelligence into that network. We've done that, we've delivered. We managed a kind of record-breaking rollout across the UK in 10 months. And this year has been very much around pushing home that message of the fact we've got a software-defined network and actually what that means for the channel. It's not just something clever that we've gone and done as an engineering exercise, but actually there are real applications that can translate into revenue and opportunities for the channel.
We were talking to Itra from the Federation of Communication Services earlier, and obviously he was talking about regulation. How are you finding the regulations around what you're trying to do? Because presumably being a wholesaler, there's a load of regulation around that, I assume.
There is, but it's presenting opportunities with Ofcom forcing OpenReach to give duct and pole access. It's starting to level that playing field, and there was a slightly contentious kind of panel discussion yesterday between CityFibre and OpenReach, both of which is good for us. OpenReach having a strong challenger works really nicely. We've seen OpenReach really improve in the last few months, and that works really well for the way that we go to market. And the more strong carriers and vendors you've got in the UK market, the better it is ultimately for everyone. So we're seeing that as a really positive step. And Ofcom trying to open those markets up and encourage more competition. Great for us, great for the channel.
So you talked about software defined, I guess, for the audience, just to understand the types of capability that get enabled with that on your
Sure,
network?
well, ultimately, the reason we adopted that technology for a number of reasons. A, it allowed us to roll out a network across the UK in kind of sort of unprecedented speed, because we don't need a huge engineering team to deliver that. The equipment can be shipped, it dials home and configures itself. So it allows you to be much leaner than a traditional rollout. But then it's all about understanding and controlling the configuration of those solutions. So the obvious one, and the one that we've seen BT kind of follow, is the flexible bandwidth type model. But we have expanded that. We can do IP addressing, we can do VLAN resizing, all of the kind of configuration elements that typically the channel might have wanted to update, and it goes into a carrier. It sits there for a couple of days. You enter between 2 and 5 working day SLAs in a traditional environment because people are involved, engineers are involved, things need to be planned. We've automated the vast majority of that change now. And because we've automated it, we're making that available through our portal and through APIs, so that actually we take people out of the journey in our organisation as well. So the bandwidth flex is an easy example. People go onto our portal, they go to the circuit, they choose what the bandwidth they want to increase it to. They make the change, they submit it. That then goes to our SDN controller, that makes the changes across our network, and within a matter of minutes, that service is live and done. There's no people from our side. It means the channel can go from a 5 working day SLA to increase bandwidth to a 5-minute SLA to increase bandwidth. And they don't have to give that speed performance away. They could use that to differentiate from other vendors and other providers. Or they could look at a tiered model of service where you can have a traditional SLA, but if you want faster SLAs, then there's a professional service charge opportunity you could build around that and offer a premium service with very fast response.
And what do you think the implications for the more traditional network providers are with software-defined networking? Is it still technologically advancing, or has it now reached the plateau and it's becoming more of a consumable?
I think it's still advancing. I think we were in a fortunate position. We're a relatively new network. One of the major challenges with rolling out software definition across it is you need to know exactly what you've got, where it is, in great detail. We had a much smaller network. We were able to have the right foundation from the start. For the larger guys, clearly they've got more resource than we have, but they've also got a vastly more complicated network, and in several cases that's a combination of networks through acquisition, through different phases of growth, and to try and bring all of those together is highly complicated and very challenging. And so we knew that we had an advantage through our age to be able to get ahead.
And have new entrants come into the market in the actual networking sphere to address some of the issues?
Ultimately, you've still got to have that audit of that underlying estate. So
Right.
there might be people that can offer that. And I think it's where you see some of those vendors with a very complex network bringing an SD-WAN type proposition to market, because that allows them to give a software-defined overlay without necessarily delivering a software-defined network infrastructure underneath. So they can have the overlay, you can give the application control and some of the benefits and some of the flexibility, but it allows you to kind of cover up or compensate where it's difficult to increase the technology across the board.
And is that a universal SLA across your whole network? Obviously you've enabled it,
So
network reaches.
on the bandwidth, it's on our network, specifically our network, because actually what we need our other network providers that provide tail circuits outside of our footprint to get that capability so that we can interface. So we're applying pressure. We want these guys to catch up. We want these guys to adopt this technology, because all that does is enhance our proposition. So where it's on our service, we can do bandwidth and we can do all of the rest of the changes. Where it's off net, we can still do the things like VLAN resizing, but we can't change the capacity of their physical infrastructure. We're still reliant on our carrier partners to do that. So there's definitely pressure for us. It's good news that other people are starting to talk about SDN as far as I'm concerned, because it shows the market is all moving on and moving forward.
Do you see a real appetite, I guess, for, obviously the improved SLA is awesome for lots of people in the digital economy to be able to change so quickly.
Exactly, yeah.
But them taking more ownership of it and being happy to control those variables?
I think that's one interesting challenge. It's why the stand this year has been very focused on trying to educate and help the channel understand what the advantages and opportunities are, but also there's some implications to it. The connectivity marketplace used to be still is very commoditized, and there's a chunk of the channel that are used to purchasing a circuit and then reselling that circuit on at a margin, and this is a different conversation. This is looking at developing a service proposition. It's not just a straight resale, and that doesn't necessarily suit every business, or hasn't been approached by every business that maybe has come from a very traditional telco background, lines and minutes type environment. You're starting to get into professional services, you're starting to get into bespoke service packages. And that's a bit of a culture shift for some businesses.
Changing risk profile as well, presumably,
Absolutely.
for you as a business, because it's SLAs rather than just punting through whatever you're selling.
Exactly, so there's more, that's why there's more focus on us to make sure the automation works and it's robust and supportable, and if something was to fail in that automation, we obviously need to have the contingencies to be able to deliver on the enhanced SLAs that we're taking out to market.
Neil, it's awesome hearing, I guess, the change that Virtual1 and obviously software-defined networking means for us all. It can only be good news, because the frustration is genuine, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In terms of marketplace.
I think you've seen the rise of as a service and consumption models across everything else within our industry, and infrastructure is the last piece of that puzzle. And I think it was an inevitable move.
Particularly if we go cloud, connectivity
Exactly.
is absolutely.
I was on a
imperative.
panel discussion with Avaya yesterday on customer experience, and I think it was a little bit jarring initially for people, because everyone knew what Avaya specialised in, and they're very obviously customer experience, but that was a big drive behind our SDN platform to make sure we could enhance the customer experience we give, but also allow our partners to enhance their customer experience.
You can't work without the network.
No,
Absolutely. Nothing works without connectivity, as we've said.
It's critical. Every solution that's being sold, connectivity is that vital connection. Years ago, you had all your critical ops systems were within your office. Your voice and your data were not converged. And if you lost your internet connectivity, you probably lost your email, but actually most of the stuff would continue working. When you're in a cloud-first world where the vast majority of your key systems are not in your office, if you lose that connectivity,
absolutely,
you've got real problems.
Neil, it's been great.
Really
great
interesting.
Insight, great talking to you.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Enjoy the show.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Take
Cheers.
care.